Hello, gracefully chosen community, and welcome to Foster My Stories, the achievement-focused podcast for foster care, adoption, orphan, inclusive of underserved communities. I'm your host, Shelena Michelle Tate, author of Fostered, which you can now find via Amazon.com. Currently, I'm working on the sequels of Entangled and Developed, which will seal this 3-part memoir series about growing up in the foster care system. Fostered is really a highlight of a 17-year journey in the South Carolina, Richland County foster care system, and continues on to life lessons of developing into adulthood and then transitioning into the individual I am today. And so I'm so excited for you to join me here on this new adventure of Foster My Stories. What is Foster My Stories? Well, Foster My Stories, once again, is an achievement-focused podcast highlighting achievement content focused towards the communities of foster care, adoption, orphan, which is inclusive of the underserved communities. Each week, you're going to hear different content of a featured story or guest. For the month of December, I'm your featured story. Why? Because I grew up in the Richland County foster care system for 17 years, and I'm your host. And also, you will hear relative content from books, movies, short films, public figures that you can relate to or can learn about. Then you also hear interviews from community guests that I've interviewed that's making an impact, positive impact in their local communities, inclusive of the foster, adoption, and orphan, but mainly the underserved. And then you'll also hear interviews with special guests. Special guests are professionals in those categories. And then as the month wraps up, you're going to have a review just to see if you have been paying attention and listening to the content, because the desire is to award one gracefully chosen listener for answering some questions correctly. I'm so excited. For the month of December, here you will hear from some guests, Jessica Burton, who is making a dynamic impact in the community locally in the Midlands, South Carolina. Also, you'll hear from Ginger Bird, whose family really has made an impact in the lives of foster care and or adoption. And going into the new year, which is right around the corner, you will hear from my featured guest. I'm so excited, Jamal Stroud, whose background has propelled him into being the dynamic leader and public figure he's grown into today. Also, you'll hear from my community guest, Jessica Green, not to be confused with Jessica Burton, but those are just some highlights. Once again, I'm so excited that you've taken time out of your schedule to join me here on Foster My Stories. So how did Foster My Stories come about? Well, I wanted to do a podcast really to connect with these communities because, once again, that's my background, and I haven't really seen, and I could be wrong, haven't really seen a podcast kind of achievement focused in on those communities. And so Foster My Stories has been birthed to do just that, to provide really positive focused achievement solutions within those communities or to those communities, because oftentimes on a daily basis all you hear is the negative, the stereotypes, and the figures and numbers that don't always match the efforts. And so that's what Foster My Stories desires to do, to let anyone associated with these communities know. And you don't have to have gone through the foster care system like I did. You don't have to have been adopted or orphaned or come from an underserved, but you yourself may desire to either give back or become a foster or adopted parent or make an impact in an orphan community. That's what this community desires to do. Here locally in South Carolina, you may have heard of Epworth Children's Home, dynamic organization that is helping countless families and individuals right now. Then you may have heard as well, of course, of the Richland County Department of Social Services. And of course, every town and state has their own social service collective. The South Carolina Foster Parent Association, also here in the Midlands, is making strides to help train aspiring and current foster parents on their journey. So I'm naming these few outlets just to give you really a highlight of, if that's your efforts, you can reach out to, right? Once again, my name is Shelena Michelle Tate. I'm your host here at Foster My Stories, and I'm so excited that you've taken time out of your schedule to come join me here. This will be featured Wednesdays, Eastern Standard Time at 3 p.m. via the Red Circle Podcast, Spotify, and Amazon's Audible. And if you yourself would like to be a featured guest, that is an individual organization that can relate to the foster, adoption, and or underserved communities, or community guests or special guests, a professional, reach out to me via Fostered My Stories Facebook page. You can also inbox me there, or you can email me at Shelena Tate, that's SHELENATATE at outlook.com. I look forward to connecting with you. And just know that despite stereotypes, figures, and numbers, here at Foster My Stories, you're not a number, you're gracefully chosen. What does it mean to be gracefully chosen? Well, that's a new name given to anyone that has been labeled foster, adopted, orphan, underserved, and to let you know that labels don't have to keep you stuck or stagnant where you are, right? You can become the new name of gracefully chosen. Why? Because you have a testimony. Your background or current situation can help others. Whatever you have gone through or may be going through is not the end and does not mean your defeat. If anything, it helps you have a unique story, a unique journey, really a unique path to blossom, thrive, and grow from and through, and then help those who are coming behind you know that they're not alone as well. I look forward to growing with you. I look forward to progressing with you on this Fostered My Stories journey. I also look forward to connecting with you. Once again, if you desire to be a featured guest, special guest, or community guest, you can reach out via Shelena Tate at outlook.com or inbox the Fostered My Stories Facebook page, and feel free to listen in on the platforms of Red Circle, Amazon's Audible, or Spotify. I look forward to you listening there. And if you desire to potentially sponsor or donate to the progression of this cause, reach out on any one of those platforms, or you can once again email Shelena Tate at outlook.com. Any contribution would be greatly appreciated. So what's in the works for Gracefully Chosen and Fostered My Stories? We have more content in development. We have books and services in development. We have a Gracefully Chosen achievement-focused center that's in the works for foster care youth ages 7 to 18, meeting them right where they are in education, extracurricular, performing, and creative arts, entrepreneurship, and really transitioning out with hopefully a growth to include the adoption, orphan, and more underserved communities. I will keep you posted on that progression as time permits, and I'm so excited to connect with you, the new Gracefully Chosen community. I'm so honored to serve as your host and to grow with you and to interview stories and individuals who have progressed beyond their past, progressed beyond their labeling, progressed beyond their name. Why? Because they're now, and you are too, gracefully chosen. Once again, I'm your host, Shelena Michelle Tate. I look forward to hanging out with you via Red Circle Podcasting, Amazon's Audible, and Spotify, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each week. Once again, on this podcast, you'll have featured stories of the month. You'll have relative books, movies, short films, and maybe a public figure highlight. You'll have community guest interviews and special guest interviews, and those are the professionals in those fields of foster care, adoption, orphan, and underserved. And each month will be wrapped up with a questionnaire prize giveaway. What's the prizes? Well, of course, I can't tell you, right? You have to tune in and successfully answer at least 2 of the 3 posted questions, which you will find as time permits via the Foster My Stories Facebook page. And I look so forward to growing with you. And remember, foster, adoption, orphan, inclusive of the underserved communities simply means you're gracefully chosen. I enjoyed being with you here today. Once again, I'm Shelena Michelle Tate, your host. I look forward to progressing with you on this Foster My Stories journey. For the month of December, you'll hear from Jessica Burton, a community guest that is making strides in her local community. You'll also hear from Ginger Berg, who took her passion for teaching and have really carried forth that passion into adopting and foster care going into the new year. You'll hear from Jamal Stroud, who is a growing public figure who, like me, has a dynamic background. And you'll also hear from Jessica Green, who is a powerhouse of a businesswoman, entrepreneur, a leader, a mother. And I'm so excited for you to listen in on that appointed interview. Once again, this is Fostered My Stories. I'm your host, Shelena Michelle Tate. I look forward to further being gracefully chosen with you. Take care.